Hello, I'm Frost and welcome to this video on space engineers. Now this video originally started out as an Is It For You video, so the intended audience was people who had not played Space Engineers before and to help them decide as to whether the game was for them or not. But as I started making the video, I decided to do it on the basis of a story, of my story in particular with Space Engineers. And I realized along the way that it had as much appeal to veterans of Space Engineers as new players alike. So I am now going to bring you Space Engineers, a space story. So when you start a new game of Space Engineers, you have a number of options available to you. One of the options is to go with scenarios. Now the scenarios give you specific objectives and tasks to do along a particular route or a storyline to follow, whilst the other way is to go with survival. Now I tried a couple of scenarios and it was okay, but I didn't want to be dragged into certain things. I'm a builder. I wanted to build things. I'd seen enough of Space Engineers to know that it was a sandbox game and you could build whatever you wanted, and I didn't want to be dragged into a storyline. And I watched a few videos from a lovely chap called Splitsy, and I will link his channel in the description below, so please be sure to check it out as I do mention it a few times during this story. Now, with Splitsy, I discovered survival mode. And with survival mode, you pick what kind of survival mode you want, and so I went for the planet, where you start off by coming down in an emergency pod, and you are dropped down first of all by thrusters, then eventually by parachute down onto a planet. And you arrive on this planet, and all you have to hand is your survival pod, and you also have a welder, you have a grinder, and you have a drill. Now, I'm a space engineer. I want to be in a spaceship.
No, you can't.
But I can't be in a spaceship just yet because I need to survive. There's limited battery life in this pod, and if I don't set up my own resources, then I will die. So I need to build. And the way to build is we have to start off by drilling. We have to drill a hole. And so we begin drilling this hole, and first of all we have to get through the topsoil. And once you've made it through the topsoil, you eventually get to the stone. So we pick up this stone and we head back to this pod. Once we're back at the pod, I can turn my stone into ingots. And this gives me iron, this gives me nickel, this gives me silicon. And with all of this, I can build stuff. But then I look at the sky and then I see this green planet. And I think maybe I'll get there someday. But I haven't really got time for that now. I need to get some more materials. I'm going to need some more power. I'm going to need a wind turbine on top of a tower. That should do the trick. Okay, now for that, I'm going to need more stone. Better drill some more. Wow, okay, it's dark down here. Oh, but I have a light. Excellent. Right, okay, so I've made enough metal plate to build my tower. What do I need for my turbine? Not enough. Need to drill some more. But first, I need to recharge. Hopefully the battery will hold out until I'm finished. And back to drill. Almost there. Still need more. Oh wow, my hole has turned into a cabin. That's the thing with Space Engineers. You do a lot of drilling at the beginning. But right, okay. So let's pop that turbine on. And we're going to pull up our welder. And we're going to weld away. And job done. Okay, so next up, I now need to build a refinery and an assembler. The survival kit provides those, but I need to build those as now separate objects. So I'm going to need some more materials. So guess what? I'm going to drill some more. And drill and drill. Now, a few more trips down the hole, and then finally I'm at the welding stage. And I'm going to grab some more stone down. I'm bound to need it. Okay, now that's a pain. I haven't got enough power, so I'm going to need another turbine. But hey, I've got a pod with all that steel and stuff. That's all going to come in very, very handy. So we'll just do a little bit of grinding and grab ourselves some bits and pieces. Right, and now it is time to build the survival kit. But I don't have all the components. I can get them though by grinding down the old survival kit, and that should do the trick. Right, next up I'm going to need a battery in case I need help with those heavy power loads, as I discovered that when I was running my turbine and assembler at the same time I didn't have enough power, and the battery is going to help with that. But oh surprise, I need more materials. So back to the hole stroke having a go. Almost there, just a few more rocks. And done. I am no longer reliant on the pod and now have the means to survive. So now that I don't have to worry about dying, I can focus on getting off this rock, and the way to do that is to build stuff. Lots of stuff. And now that I have the survival bit out of the way, I can continue the story from my real base. So the first thing that I built was a mining ship. And as you can see, especially for the veterans, it was a very basic ship. It was ugly, but you know what? It worked. It did the trick. It meant I didn't have to go down into that damn hole and dig and dig and dig with a drill. I could now do it with a ship, and it was so much faster and so much better. And I was so happy with that, and that's why I kept it. It was my first mining ship. That was a big deal. That's Space Engineers. Once you have your first ship, you can't throw it away. That's a rule. But I went away and I watched a Splitsy video, and I realized that there's a better way of building a ship. And so I built this ship, and it looked much, much nicer. It worked much, much better. It had much less of a tendency to tip over, which was great. And also I worked out how to do colouring, so I was able to give it some pretty colours, which made me very happy. And so with this mining ship, I mined and I mined and I mined until
I can build a spaceship!
Okay, so I've got my spaceship, and now I can fill it up with hydrogen, and it's time for launch. And I'm away. I'm up and running. This is it. I'm heading up, and I'm rising up to 6 kilometers of altitude, and then I find that my atmospheric thrusters no longer work because there's not enough atmosphere. So at that point, I kick up the nose of my ship, and I power up my hydrogen thrusters, and they will take me the rest of the way. And along the way, I get a nice view of heading out into space, look around my ship, admire it. I'm a space engineer. I made it. I'm a space engineer again. But now I need to find an asteroid, hopefully with some ice on it, and then I can set up a space base. But finding resources on asteroids is not easy, and struggling to find all of them, all of the resources, is even harder. So I need a solution. And that solution is to build a bigger spaceship to bring up these missing resources from the planet. What I need is a shuttle. But the shuttle's going to need a lot of parts, and I need a better mining ship. What I need is a mining ship with 2 drills and loads of power to carry out more ore and be much more stable, something that's going to chew through rocks in no time. And I'm going to be able to just fly it over, make a big hole, dive into that hole, munch away at the rocks, and make my way back. But as always with these things, along the way things break. You bump into things and you have to fix them. But now that I have a proper base and I know my way around all the parts, making repairs is a breeze. Although, mustn't forget to colour coordinate. It's always very important to colour coordinate. And talking of parts, here we go. Let me just show you a list of all the different kinds of parts that you have. So as a space engineer, at first it's very overwhelming. You're not quite sure what everything does. But as you make your way forwards and as you start making more parts, more bit ships, more things, then you suddenly realize what every bit does, and every single one of them is very, very useful. So I then watched another Splitsy video and I got distracted, and so I built a rover, and it doesn't really do anything that a ship can't do better, but you know what, it was fun to build. It's fun to drive around, and you will break it plenty because you will drive too fast and you will fly off into the air and you will break it and you'll have to fix it. You will then turn corners too quickly and it will flip over onto its roof and you'll have to figure out how to put it back, and you'll break it again. But eventually you'll get bored of the rover and you'll get back on track and get back to building the shuttle. So here is the shuttle. I have 4 hydrogen tanks, a stack of batteries, and too many hydrogen and atmospheric thrusters to mention, but it can haul a stack of stuff into space. But 4 hydrogen tanks, that's going to take a lot of fuel, which means I'm going to need a lot of ice. And the only solution, or sensible solution to that, is to find an ice lake. And once I find this ice lake, I then have to set up ice harvesting and hydrogen production in an outpost. But I will also need a vehicle to gather up lots of ice though. But there we go, this one should do the trick. After a few attempts, the suspension no longer collapsed under the weight. The mining drills did not flip the vehicle over. It did not drill itself into a hole. The design was now perfect, as perfect as it could be, and I was good to go. And as you can see, there you go, working perfectly, just mining up all that ice, storing in all those containers, and it's going in a straight line and not falling to bits, which is excellent. But things don't always go to plan. But as you can see, there, yeah, I got myself stuck in a hole. But an engineer always finds a solution. And in this case, I figured that a bunch of pistons would be able to do the trick. But once again, not enough materials. And yes, I'm back digging a hole again. But at least this time I've got a decent drill and it takes no time at all. And suddenly, there we go, I'm heading back out of this deep hole that I drilled very quickly. And in no time, I've got all the parts that I need. So now it's a case of build this, weld this little bit, weld that little bit, and then weld this bit, and then I'm good to go. So, right, we give this a try. So nearly there. Okay, fire up the pistons. Here they go. Here it comes out, it comes out, it comes out. Bit of welly, and we're out. There we go. Engineering fixed the problem, and I am good to go again. Okay, so nighttime is drawing in as I pull up to my outpost and park up my ice mining truck. And I'm now able to be able to transfer all that ice and let it all churn away and fill up those hydrogen tanks. Then I can make sure that I fill up the hydrogen tanks on my ship. And once that's all done, I can then set off back to home base with a job well done. And now I get back to base. I've just got to line this up properly. Using my color markers, I can get back to the job of setting up my moon base. But just before I set off in the shuttle though, I need to take a moment to take a look around at my base. I'm happy that I spent the time adding some more color and some pretty lights. Really made the place my own, and I get to appreciate how much it has grown, and I've worked on solving problems. But anyway, space awaits, and as I rise up into the night, I know this is just one of many shuttle runs, but eventually I will get settled and have myself a proper space base. Oh, and what a space base it becomes, with a special place for all of my containers. All of them super organized and filled to the brim with everything I need. Then moving on to my first building, which contains a dock area stroke viewing gallery, lots of windows for space views, and I'm totally happy with it. Then if we move inside the building, which of course is accessed through an airlock, as I have both air and I have 1G of gravity on the interior, and I can proudly open up my visor to demonstrate this. By the way, it only took 3 hours to figure out the air leak. For anyone that just first tries to make a building airtight, you will have air leaks, and trust me, it is a nightmare trying to track them down. And it took me 3 hours. But hey, that's space engineers. But, you know, now that I've made my building, I made sure that it was fully livable with a canteen and recreation area. I made sure that I had some snug crew quarters with space windows, of course. Then I added some officer quarters with an officer lounge, just so they can keep an eye on things, make sure that everything's running smoothly. But then as I expanded into a second building, so originally I had all my assemblers and everything in there, I had to build a walkway. Now I can't just build a dark, narrow walkway. You've got to do it properly, so I added plenty of glass so you get a nice view as you trot your way down to the second building. And in this second building is now my power plant. And as you can see, it's stacked full of upgraded refineries. It's stacked with loads of upgraded assemblers. There's a stack of hydrogen and oxygen generators on the back wall, and a wall of batteries for when the sun is on the wrong side of the asteroid. Because unfortunately the sun goes round, and it's very, very difficult to put it's very difficult to put your solar panels on all sides of the asteroids. So up until now, all the ships were built using the small blocks, but in order to finish a base of this magnitude, it requires a whole other level of mining ship. And this meant it was time to move up to building ships with the big blocks. And so this behemoth of a mining ship came to be. With its large size and weight, comes in at 500 metric tons, it moves like a barge. But fortunately, it's been equipped with jump drives and can leap in one bound to an asteroid field. Once it's there, it slowly maneuvers itself into place, approaches this asteroid or big ice block, And its 3 large mining drills chew through rock and ice, gathering up over 1,000 metric tons on a single trip. That's 1,000 times more than I could do from digging in a hole. So yeah, we've definitely moved along. Then, once home, I get the realization of just how full the ship is. And I come to a momentary lapse of concentration, which brings me a few meters, literally just a few meters from spreading 1,500 tons of ship parts and ore all over space by crashing into my own asteroid. I can't even begin to describe how many hours that would take to put right. But luckily, crisis over, and I managed to nudge my big bulky mining ship into dock. And I can now reveal what my space base was designed for, and for what this mining ship helped me create. What I needed was an exploration ship. A jump drive enabled ship so huge that it could hold all the parts that I needed, carry all of the ships I needed, and build any part required whilst on my journey to another planet. Now, such a ship does not have a cockpit. It has access through an airlock, a bridge with an atmosphere. And if we trot round the corner, you can see I have an armory in case I have to deal with space pirates. Well, has defense turrets as well. I forgot to mention those, top and bottom. And then, now because we're on long journeys, if we go round the back, you'll see that because we need to spend a lot of time on the bridge, it also includes, of course, the necessary facilities. And then, once we come back round to the front, you will see that there's plenty of glass to provide that all-round view. And as well, there is space to relax and grab a snack. Now, a ship of this size has more than one deck, and if we pop down these stairs, yes, we have stairs, as this ship has its own artificial gravity generator, we can wander around all the machinery that keeps this ship operational, with the walkways providing easy access to all the components for repair, as well as providing a nice view for the maintenance crews. Have to have guardrails though, we don't want to lose anybody overboard. Then, going down one more deck, we are presented with another airlock for access to the officers' quarters. And these provide not only a rest and leisure area, but also a control desk and a survival kit in the event of the bridge being lost to either a natural event or an attack. Finally, on the rear deck, a moored space mining ship, our trusty shuttle, and a welding grinding ship. Okay, so my exploration carrier logistics production megaship is ready to go, and we use one of our mounted cameras to perform the undock procedure. And we are then ready to cast away. After a few maneuvers to get me far enough away from the asteroid's mass for me to be able to use my jump drive, I make the jump to another planet. The thing is though, my ship is weighing in at over 1.4 billion metric tons, and because of that my 2 jump drives are only able to get the ship halfway. But fortunately, our ship is equipped with enough batteries to recharge our jump drives at full speed, which only takes a few minutes. And whilst this is happening, we face towards the sun and deploy our solar panels. We're actually capable of recharging our batteries using the onboard hydrogen supplies, but the solar panels mean we can recharge our jump drives even if we have no fuel. A good space engineer always over-engineers, and I just wanted solar panels that pull out and retract. So, with the jump drive recharged, we make our final jump to the alien planet. One of the first steps of this new planet was to build a refueling and resupply base, and as we slowly and carefully dock up at the alien planet's space base, we make very, very sure that we don't go flying with 1.4 billion metric tons of ship into rocks and asteroids on the space base, so we have to be a little bit careful. Now, we've arrived at our space base, and for all of those space engineers veterans with a keen eye, you will notice that this base looks very Spartan. There is not much about. Nice view though. Well, maybe it's because I have watched one too many Bond movies, and you'll find tucked away in the corner, hidden by the rocks, is a door. And behind this door is the actual base with all of its machinery whirring away, its batteries and its fuel tanks. Yep, I built my space base in an asteroid crater, away from prying eyes. There's even an antenna down there too, so I can covertly observe everybody. Those hydrogen tanks do not fuel themselves though, and this area was seriously lacking in ice asteroids, so another solution had to be found. This solution involved building a jump-capable fuel freighter and travelling to a nearby moon that was covered in ice lakes. A quick jump and we arrive at our location. And with very little atmosphere or gravity, getting down to the planet is absolutely no problem. Although the weather at the time of arrival is hardly the best, especially when you're trying to dock a large ship directly above the station. We manage though and make our way down to the station to make sure that everything is still where it should be. Yeah, all looks fine, but we'll head back to the ship and wait for the storm to blow over. Now that the storm is over, you can see that this station is set up to extract ice and produce hydrogen to fill up the tanks whilst unattended. The rig rotates around the station, lowering every few minutes until it's removed the whole ice layer. A quick repositioning of the drill heads is needed, followed by a check to make sure they're in the correct position. And then we can head back to our control seat and press all the buttons to restart the mining operation. Hey presto, working perfectly. We can return to our ship knowing that on our next visit, the fuel tanks will be full once more. And so, we head back to our alien space base, dock up our fuel freighter and run over to our control panel where we can pump the fuel into the tanks so that we can keep our ships fully fueled. Now that's done, it is time to head down to the alien planet, and for that we're going to need our shuttle. We undock, we clear the carrier, swing round, dampeners off, and a quick squirt of the hydrogen engines will send us off towards the gravity well of the alien planet. And as we enter the atmosphere, we remember to engage the atmospheric thrusters. There's nothing worse than hitting thrust and nothing happening and then sending your ship piling into the ground. Very embarrassing, I have done it. And so, we arrive at our alien planet base, and as you can see, this is still a work in progress, but I have my infrastructure in place, and I've got the ships needed to be able to move all the construction along. As this is an alien planet, I thought it highly plausible that I may come under attack from alien life forms. I therefore thought it best for it to be built off the ground on a base made of toughened armour and monitored by sentry towers. I did make the assumption these aliens would not be able to fly though, or climb ladders for that matter. But what I did differently for this base was to create a horizontal section that would contain all of my conveyors and connection to machinery and containers happening through the floor, with the vertical flow provided through a central core. By doing this, my base will have a nice airy clean look to it, and I'll eventually be able to put glass windows around all four sides and perhaps on the roof too, although I may build another level for quarters before that. So much more were to be done, but then that's the life of a space engineer. And it's starting to rain, and I realise that I've not built anywhere to shelter in yet. I will just have to hide in my shuttle cockpit until it blows over, and hope that no aliens attack in the meantime. Well, at least I can plan what to build next. So, that is my space engineer story so far, and as you can see, more than 250 hours of game time later, it is still not over. And there will be many more ships built and many more planets and moons colonized, and they'll be most likely always be on a grander scale. And so, as I sit back on my space couch and look back at the planet, I think of how it all started, with just a survival pod, a welder, a grinder, and a drill. And drilling. Lots of drilling. But from this came survival, then a planetary base, then the means to reach the stars, settling in space, building a manufacturing power base, building a warp-capable carrier ship to eventually reach and settle other planets. And of course, along the way, there have been... Spaceship! 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 I hope you've enjoyed this story, and I hope that yours is just as fun and rewarding as mine has been. So there we go, this brings it to an end. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give me a like if you did. You can dislike too, that's fine. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications. And if you want, you can follow me on my live streams, which happen on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and you'll find the details in the description. That's it for now, until the next one.